Now, when it comes to horror movies, a lot of people remember the 80s as being the decade of the sequel. All those Halloween movies, Friday the 13th movies, Nightmare on Elm Street, shit, even Critters and Ghoulies. Yeah, sequel. That's what the 80s were all about. No, they were also about remakes. Or at least there was a lot of good remakes that came out in the 80s. The Fly, The Thing, Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Well, that was 70s, I guess. Well, John Carpenter's The Thing is probably my favorite of the 80s remakes. But I'd have to say that I really like The Blob. Yeah, The Blob is from 1988. This is a remake that far outdoes the original. The Blob with Steve McQueen from 1960. Steve McQueen, Blob, kind of enjoyed it. Maybe just for like nostalgic value. I saw it on TV and for some reason didn't remember how fucking boring that movie was. And all the dialogue, and it's a 50s sci-fi movie, sci-fi monster movie. What do you expect? 90% of the movie is people sitting around talking. I knew there was a remake of this in the 80s, but I never got around to seeing it. Not until I saw the Red Letter Media review of The Blob 1988 that I actually wanted to see this movie. I was like, well, this is a cheesy remake. I really like their videos. They're my absolute favorite YouTube channel. So, of course, I got to go with their recommendation on this. And I was not disappointed at all. The Blob from 1988 is a fantastic movie. On this October Horror-thon, you're expecting, we want horror movies. We don't want sci-fi monster movies. Well, this is a sci-fi monster movie. And it is a remake of a cheesy old boring movie, but when it comes to horror, this movie is fucking horrifying, if you ask me. In terms of body horror, things that happen to the victims of the Blob in this movie are they're disgusting to look at, but they're also amazing. And it's how the hell did they do this? And this is all practical effects. The practical effects and the gore of the Blob of this movie are amazing, and they're shocking and disgusting and scary. For a cheesy monster movie, it's pretty fucking scary. You get to see a lot of melted people and stuff in here, and people that get eaten by the Blob, and stuff dude gets sucked down the drain by the thing, latches onto his face and pulls him into the drain. That's disgusting. And another guy gets folded in half and pulled in a vent. The kid in the sewer gets melted by the Blob. Hey, this movie's not afraid to kill some kids. The very first Blob kill that we see, yeah, that's gonna stick with you. Now, the actors in this movie, there's a lot of good actors in this movie. Even though most of them I don't even know their names. They're just character actors that show up, but everybody's bringing their A game here. This is a really well directed and well written movie. You get Kevin Dillon as our main protagonist, this motorcycle riding, long haired, cigarette smoking, leather jacket wearing rebel, kind of like Rudy in the Monster Squad. Remember that guy? Anyway, but he has way cooler hair. And he's quite good in this movie. Then you get Shawnee Smith. Yeah, she's really good in this movie, actually. I mean, in the beginning of the movie, you think she's just an airhead cheerleader, whatever. But by the end of the movie, she's saving the day, and she's shooting a machine gun and using grenades and saving kids from certain disaster of getting devoured by the Blob. And she turns out to be well, I guess the co-hero of this. And of course the love interest of Calvin Dillon. Another actor I recognized in here, and he's not in it for very long, but Jack Nance, Eraserhead himself, or Henry, rather. Yeah, he plays like the doctor that examines the patient zero that gets the blob infection on his hand or whatever, this old hobo that pokes a stick at it in the woods. Everybody here was solid. Good acting. I mean, story-wise, it pretty much plays out like the first one. But here's a quick synopsis of the first one. Meteorite lands from space. An old guy with a stick pokes at it. Gets infected. Patient zero. Blob. Blob escapes hospital and starts terrorizing the town. So all the local teenagers, led by the 40-year-old Steve McQueen teenager, the McQueenager, they all get together with the cops and stuff and settle all their differences and band together to fight the blob, and they freeze it and they send it up to the North Pole and whatever, and it's done. It was a boring ass 50s movie with some notable kind of neat things that happened. In this one, first of all, here's one thing that diverges, is the blob actually isn't from space. It does crash, down to Earth in a fireball and lands in a field, and an old guy with a stick pokes at it. But it turns out, with spoilers, that it's actually a human-made experiment gone wrong, like some kind of genetic experiment, a biological weapon or something that they grew in a lab, and they're like, oh, this thing is fucked up, we better send it out into space. And I guess they sent it out in a satellite, crash back on Earth and infects this small town, and it's fucked. And then later on, the government has to come in, and the guys in the hazmat suits, and just like an ET, and they've all got guns and shit, and they're like military / scientists. And there's one crazy guy that gives all the exposition of the movie and tells you all about what the blob is and stuff. That's like the only boring chunk of this movie. And you're like, yeah, who fucking cares? We want to see this other scene where there's a bunch of people in a movie theater and the blob gets on the ceiling and shit, and it starts pulling people up from the audience into itself and eating them and digesting them and getting bigger and evacuating the theater. The fucking blob's coming, and like it's going in all directions and it's killing people everywhere, and that shit is fucking crazy. There's a lady gets eaten in a phone booth. That's a really cool scene. I don't know, the kid in the sewer that gets like digested and like dissolved and shit, and he's like, whoa, and pops out of the water, and this shit is fucking horrifying. Oh, and the guy making out with the girl that he thinks is passed out, and he's trying to make his move on her or whatever, and then turns out that she's being eaten by the blob, and the blob caves in her face or something, and then all these tentacles come out, and yeah, it's nuts, man. The effects in here are really cool, and I like them. I mean, it's not like it's a super realistic story. No, it's a fucking blob that comes down and eats a bunch of people, and they try and figure out how to kill it, and they do. Game over, man. Overall, even though the creature itself is kind of fluid, I am going to give the blob a solid A. I had the time of my life watching this movie. It was exciting. It was what you want in a monster movie. It was the kind of things that you want to see when you want to go see something that scares you or freaks you out or makes you go, whoa, hey man, that's crazy. Oh, what the hell, The Blob, 1988, had it all. This is an A, baby. So until next time, happy Halloween, and have a good one, everybody.